We all know that breakthrough SEO is challenging even for the most ambitious B2B brands today. There are so many moving parts and so many factors to consider. So how can B2B brands future-proof their content for AI search engines? Welcome to this episode of the B2B Marketers on a Mission podcast, and I'm your host, Christian Klepp. Today, I'll be talking to Andreas Voniatis, who will be answering this question. He's a data scientist, the founder of RTOs.io, and the author of the book Data-Driven SEO. Find out more about what this B2B marketer's mission is. Okay, Mr. Andreas Voniatis, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share how we can get into the minds of your target buyers.
Absolutely. Great to have you on the show. I think our pre-interview call was absolutely dynamite. I think I should have recorded that one too.
You should have recorded it.
But that was giving me a little, that whet my appetite a little bit, right? It was a taste of what's to come, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation, Andreas, because I think we're going to dive deep today. Dive deep into, I think, a topic that's going to be even more relevant to B2B marketers moving forward. So let's dive right in, shall we?
Thank you, Christian. Yes, I'm very excited. It's going to be a lot of fun, as well as stimulating.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Andreas, I would say that you're on a mission to help B2B companies deliver, this is a mouthful, just hang in there, data science-powered content marketing that delivers the rapid wins your C-suite demands and the long-term brand growth your business needs. For this conversation, why don't we zero in on a topic that I think has become part of your professional mission: how to future-proof your content for AI search engines. I'm going to repeat that one. How to future-proof your content for AI search engines. So why don't we kick off this conversation with two questions, and I'm happy to repeat them. Question number one is, why is breakthrough SEO so hard for ambitious B2B brands today? And question number two is, what do you believe it takes for B2B brands to succeed in the era of AI?
Thank you, Christian. And both very good questions, if you don't mind me saying so. So why is it so hard for B2B brands to achieve breakthrough SEO? Well, for a bit of context, we've had 2 decades of SEO playbooks where you would simply take up your target keyword, probably from a tool like SEMrush, and then you would produce an ultimate guide to that target keyword or topic. But the problem is that, well, if everybody's doing that, then think about the big picture from a Google or an AI perspective. All we've done is created a noisy internet, right, where everybody has this low effort content. There's nothing original because most of everything is just a better version of stuff that's already out there. It's copy paste, but it's evolved. So when you're a B2B company that's just adding to the noise, well, it's statistically incredibly obvious to any AI or traditional search engine that your content's not really adding any significant value, and that is part of the problem that makes it highly challenging for B2B companies.
Absolutely. And then on to that second part, or that second question rather, what do you believe it takes for B2B brands to succeed in this AI era?
Yeah, so AI, it's great news, and I know it sounds a bit weird for an organic marketer, stroke SEO content marketer, to say this, but what AI has done is it's increased the ability of search technology to really understand what the content means, all the context around it. Previous attempts have been made via schema and things like that, and using mathematical analysis to estimate the probability the user is satisfied with the results and all that sort of thing. But LLMs have taken it to another level. Now, this has several implications for B2B marketers. The first thing is that, like any PhD, when defending it, your content has to tell the world via the internet something they didn't know before. Okay, so that means that now it's about high effort content as opposed to low effort content, because if you're just producing low effort content, then you're simply adding to the noise on the internet. And because AI, especially with inflation, rising electricity and energy costs, the shortage of AI chips that are available, it means that AI is incredibly expensive to run, even though everybody wants it and doesn't want to pay for it. So that means that your content really has to do a lot more with than it did before. You're not going to succeed in the AI search era by putting out low effort content. So in terms of what high effort content looks like, you need to be putting in some proprietary value, some unique perspectives. So the traditional way of doing it would be to perhaps put out a survey on a survey report on, say your target topic, and produce content like that, because then you're telling the world something new that it didn't know before. You're putting together some unique insights that can't be obtained anywhere else on the internet.
Those are some really fantastic points, and I think there was something that you said earlier that really jumped out at me. It was creating a noisy internet, because ain't that the truth, right?
Oh yes.
If you look at the internet right now, you're just inundated with all this noise. I think the follow-up question that I had for you, Andreas, and I know this is the field that you are, or I would say the lane that you swim in, but how do you feel about companies or marketers using AI-generated content, and how does that impact searchability?
So, having built my own LLM from scratch in, I believe it was 2020, around the same time that GPT-2 came out, what I've learned is that there's nothing worse than a model being trained on model output. Okay, so this is one of the big things that AI search technology fears, which is to train their models on AI generated content, because it's a bit like taking a cassette copy of a cassette copy of the original. All right, so if the original are your target buyers talking about having conversations on the things you sell, and the search technology like AI and LLMs are modeling those conversations, then if you're then taking the output of that model output, i.e. the LLM AI generated content, and you're putting it out there on the web, then you're not going to score very highly from an AI search perspective, because you'll be seen as adding noise to the internet, and they don't want to train their models on your content. So therefore, you're not going to be very visible in the AI search era. And so that will lead on to a very interesting topic later, if time allows, on how to select your topics. But yeah, that's so in terms of for the simple answer, or the short answer on AI generated content, don't do it for that reason.
Absolutely. That was kind of like the answer I was expecting, but yes, I wanted to hear it from you. but there are so many companies doing that, though, right? And you do see a pattern in the type of content they generate. It's not very original. It lacks any kind of like brand tonality as far as that goes. And there is, to your point, if you're trying to offer a unique and different point of view, well, guess what? AI generated content is not going to provide that.
No, I think from marketer to marketer, we can both agree that the whole point of branding is to be memorable, distinctive, and different. So if you're producing something that is being produced by all of your competitors, then it flies in the face of the principles of branding. Like, that it doesn't sound like marketing thinking to be using AI generated content.
It's like back in the day, and I'm dating myself here. It's like we were required to study Shakespeare, right? And some of the classmates resorted to using, I think they were called Cliff Notes, which is basically showing you the summary of each chapter of the story, right? And when we would have to write essays or compositions that assess that chapter, well, the teacher knew right away who was using Cliff Notes and who wasn't.
Interesting, right? Very interesting. It's funny you say that. My daughter has just entered the top set for her English class for the year, and she 12 months ago she was in the bottom set. Now, with the right teacher, she's learned to appreciate the nuances of language, the linguistic devices, and things like that. So, I can't imagine a Cliff Notes would give you the understanding and the use of language if you're going to answer those questions very well. It might be useful for giving you the synopsis so that it gives you the context, but beyond that.
Exactly. It basically is designed similar to AI to a certain level. It was designed to give you the summary of a chapter. So instead of having to read 20 pages of Shakespearean English, it'll give it to you in 3 pages.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. All right. I'm going to move us on to the next question about pitfalls that specifically content marketers need to avoid, and what should they be doing instead?
What content marketers should be doing, first of all, is data mining, like we do your target buyer conversations online, and there's many platforms. There's a reason why ChatGPT or OpenAI has a media deal with The Atlantic and many other select publishers. Google's relying on Reddit, X is relying on X, or Grok is relying on X. And so, we as marketers should be doing the same thing, because where those conversations are happening, there's a reason why AI are using them. It's because they're trusted by real people. It's not an article written by their SEO consultant. These are real conversations, and they're heavily moderated against spam. I'm not saying spam won't get through, but there's a much lower chance of that. So if you're modeling those conversations, then you're able to produce insights much cheaper than taking out a survey, with Ipsos or a similar agency. Those surveys, especially if you want national representation, they could easily run into the tens of thousands in the US or Canada. But you could, there are scraping tools out there, and then you do a bunch of machine learning and AI to tease out. First of all, you can subset those conversations for the topic you're writing about. You can even classify or cluster those conversations into the topics to build out a topic map of what it is you're, around the things that you provide as a business, as a brand. And then within those topics, you can build virtual audiences of your target buyer and get their views on a certain topic and create reports. And that is the type of content that succeeds in AI search.
Interesting. And I guess another pitfall to avoid is don't use AI generated content, right?
Yeah, don't use that. But also in the AI search era, tools like SEMrush and Ahrefs, they're not going to work very well, because the problem with keywords is that keywords don't tell you who's searching against that keyword, right? Whereas by data mining communities online, you can subset those conversations by your ICP or your target buyer profile, and then based on that target buyer profile, you can get their views on the topic. And when you produce that content based on that research, the content you produce is going to correlate very highly to the fact-checking algorithms of AI, but also it's going to resonate with the reader when they read it. And when you put it on social media, or you write a press release and promote it to journalists, you're going to get press coverage. So, this is not just about search and AI. This is about multi-channel. This is multi-channel value. This is proper marketing. It's not just about trying to get traffic from the search engines.
Interesting, interesting. And sorry, I don't mean to ruffle anyone's feathers here, but well, just from what you were saying a couple of minutes ago, are you suggesting that is from your professional point of view, is it going to be like the natural evolution that tools like SEMrush and Ahrefs are no longer going to be as relevant as they were?
That's absolutely true, in my opinion. I don't think we're ruffling feathers too much because
Okay.
SEMrush have produced a tool called Datos.
Okay.
I believe hopefully I've pronounced
Right.
it correctly, and they've got some audience data. And again, these tools are the future because although we don't provide a tool because we've created our own proprietary technology, again we're going to end up with a kind of software arms race. At the moment, we like to think we're winning, even though we're not a software provider. And the reason why I say that is because it's one thing to profess that you're producing insights from an audience, but the validation is key. Like the question I would ask for any of these software providers is like, okay, well, what's the margin of error for your insights? What is the confidence interval for how high is your confidence interval for the insights that you're generating for this target buyer when they have views on a certain subject. Now that's really important because again, if you want your content to succeed versus a competitor that's using a similar tool, then if your data is better, if your analysis is better than the other competitors, then you're gonna be more visible because your data is going to correlate much more highly to the models of AI versus alternative software providers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. You kind of brought up some of these factors already in the past couple of minutes, but break it down for us here. Traditional SEO versus SEO for AI search engines. Key differences and what content marketers need to be paying attention to.
So the key differences are that in traditional SEO, there were 10 blue links, okay? And what we also found is that the tactics were high volume, low effort content. And also higher word counts tended to perform really well. Now, in the AI search era, AI still relies on traditional search results, and that would partly explain why Google has started requiring JavaScript for AI search technology or any technology to access the search results, so it could block OpenAI from using their search results to ground their own generated answers. So in the AI search era, it's all about high effort content. More word count is not necessarily more because if you think about the energy costs and the chip processing costs of understanding content, it's much better to be information rich or insight rich in your content rather than having loads of word count, because that just costs a lot more computing flops, which is a measure of computing power for the AI to process that content. So the traditional SEO principles of making sure your content is discoverable, making sure it's unique enough to be indexed or included in the search engines, and it's got authority, they still apply. But in the AI search era, we just need to up our game, so to speak. So that means high effort content, insight rich, and multi-channel value, because now AI is a lot more sophisticated is using so many different sources. So it makes sense that if your content is capable of being liked by humans, not just by AI, which will be surfaced in terms of signals when it shows up in publications, publishing or talking about your content, then you're winning. So hopefully I summarized that reasonably well.
Yeah, yeah. I'm mentally, I've got this chart with like two columns, right? And then I'm just trying to like fill them in as you're talking, right? With the traditional and then the AI powered search, right? I almost feel also that in traditional SEO, people, not everybody, but a lot of people were very obsessed with just keyword stuffing, right?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because
Yeah.
that was my other bullet point just that I forgot to mention, is that
Yeah.
traditional SEO is keyword driven,
Mm.
but AI SEO is, or GEO as it's sometimes called now,
Okay.
generative engine optimization.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've just seen that in the last
Mm.
2 weeks. The other difference is that GEO or AI SEO is people driven. Okay, so I can see a lot of thought leaders within the SEO space, in the SEO industry, that they're spending a lot of time and focus trying to reverse engineer the AI search results. Personally, I don't think that's the best use of resource or time. I think you're better off reverse engineering your target buyers, and you should be anyway. Not just, we've been doing that for decades in market research. That's what market research is, right? It's getting data on your target audience. But from an online perspective and a GEO perspective, we should be reverse engineering our target buyers in order to work out what content we should be producing. And with AI, you can do that at a fraction of the cost, as opposed to traditional surveys where, it can run into the thousands.
Well, it's not just about the cost, but it's also about the time. I mean, just thinking about like the amount of time that's required to put together a survey, then unleash that, as I call it, unleash it out into the wild, and then collect all that data, synthesize and aggregate the data. I mean, like,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a time aspect. Like, some of the market researchers that I work with, they will absolutely refuse to do any kind of work in the kind of holiday and the Christmas season, for that reason, because they can't
Yeah.
get anybody to actually fill
Well,
those
of course.
surveys in.
Yeah. 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 Not in the West anyway.
No, no, yeah, absolutely right.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, Andreas, you've laid that out so beautifully, and it's such a great segue into the next question, where I'm going to ask you to like break it down a little bit, right? Like, so in terms of like how B2B marketers can leverage this data science powered content for rapid wins. So, talk to us about what are the key components required. What are the steps they need to take?
Yeah, so the first thing I would recommend is ditch your SEO keyword tools. That will save you a bit of money. Spend that money instead on scraping APIs and set them onto community forums like Reddit, X, LinkedIn. I mean, I would do all the forums like we do, and then build a database in the cloud so that you can start storing quotes and with user profiles against them, and then build a neural network to start feeding that data in, so you can start synthesizing those conversations. And then you'll have to obviously build successive layers within that neural network to subset for your target buyer, because obviously you're only interested in their views. So this is an infrastructure. It might sound futuristic to some, but this is already happening, or should be happening. So that's the kind of, the future needs to be built now,
Yeah,
effectively,
yeah, yeah.
if you want to get ahead.
It's probably a bit of both, right? Because I mean, AI is such a, I'm just going to say it's such a continuous phenomena. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, what was relevant maybe 6 months ago has probably changed. I mean, like, look how many versions of ChatGPT there are now, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people are also, like myself included, are starting to use Perplexity more for research. Right?
Yeah,
versus
100%.
versus just Google, for example. There's some that I know that stopped using Google for research completely.
Yeah, I see. I kind of fall in both camps. If I
Mm,
feel that I'm about to write something that I feel, well, I want a bit of an essay output, then
sure.
I will tend to use ChatGPT
Hmm.
or Claude.
Okay.
Uh, if I if I'm just looking for a kind of quick answer, or I want to navigate to a web page, then I will use Google. So
Yeah.
Google's
Yeah.
still in there
Yeah.
somewhere.
Absolutely. 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 It's not going to go into a museum anytime soon, I think.
No,
But
but I was about to say, I think they're doing a very good job in
yeah.
terms of keeping up. I think, if
Yes.
anything, they really need to. I know they're trialing their own version of ChatGPT. I forget what it's called,
Yes. I
but
I have I have heard this rumor as well. Yes,
yeah.
I've heard this
So,
rumor.
and Google have got, what Google does 27 times the amount of queries ChatGPT does in any given month. So I
Yeah.
don't think, like you said, it's not going to the museum just yet.
No. No, I don't think so. Okay. We get to the point in the conversation where we're talking about actionable tips. And Andreas, you've given us plenty. I mean, I've been writing furiously now in the past 30 minutes. But let's just say, for instance, there is a B2B content marketer out there that's listening to this conversation. And you'd want them to like take away all of these things that you've said and implement them, right?
Yes.
Like right now, not in 12 months, not
Yeah.
in six, like after they listen to this interview. What are like 3 to 5 things you would advise them to do, like right now?
Start scanning the forums for the well, to first of all find out what it is that your target buyers are talking about. So um, if you're not data savvy, as in you can't code or don't have access to a coder to do all that scraping, just start reading them. A good PR person, they're constantly reading the news of the journalists or editors that they're trying to win coverage from. Do the same thing, and don't limit it to forums. Also read the news, and then obviously open up spreadsheets. Start putting them in, and you can try and feed it into, say, ChatGPT to sort of say, right, look, I've got all of these opinions. Um, you know, cl- cluster them into topics, or synthesize some insights from this to help me write better content.
I mean, that in itself is dynamite stuff. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That's something that I could even do after this conversation, right? So
Yeah,
it
100%.
it's taking that data, aggregating it quickly, and also try to produce an end result. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what content marketers need to do. Because it's not that they shouldn't do research, but they shouldn't spend all their time researching.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. There's a happy balance, isn't there?
yeah.
You can get the data. I mean, my mindset is I would always go for the near, if not perfect,
Mm,
solution, and then I tend to work backwards.
yeah.
Uh, um, so yeah, absolutely. A true marketer, in my opinion, always falls to research first and then move to strategy and tactics. There's a big
Absolutely.
misconception that social media is or marcoms is marketing, but marcoms, as we both know, and I'm sure many of our audience knows, that marcoms is only 10% of the picture.
Did you hear that, Marcoms people? Like, no, it's absolutely, absolutely. All right, you've given us a lot now, right? We've talked about, okay, how to future proof your content for AI search engines. We've talked about the key pitfalls to avoid, traditional versus AI search engines, um, actionable tips. What are some? At some point, these content marketers are going to have to show somebody who's in a non-marketing role usually somebody that's higher up in the in the organizational ladder, they're going to have to show them that, look, I'm making progress. Look,
Yes.
this is working. Look, this is
Yeah.
succeeding. So we're talking about metrics here, and I call this the love it or hate it question, right? So what are some metrics that you would advise content marketers to pay attention to?
Yeah, I think the metrics, there's a couple of metrics, right? There's the quality of the content and the volume of traffic you get to it. So I think traditionally content marketing probably hasn't done as good job at marketing the tactic itself in terms of as a tool for driving conversions, whereas the kind of statistical reports that we produce on any given topic, I find that they straddle that world very well in terms of it's like a hybrid approach. It's not just top of funnel, but it's also bottom of funnel. Because when your buyers are searching for a solution, they tend to want to learn from the experiences of people who have been there before or bought your product or bought a solution similar to what you've provided. And the great thing about doing these kind of reports is you can be accountable for conversions. It doesn't have to be that conversation of, oh, well, we just send you traffic. It's like, oh no, hang on a minute. Let's look at both traffic and conversions and engagement and shares and backlinks and press coverage. And that's the beautiful thing about AI, content marketing for the AI search era is that you can actually have it all.
Wow, that's a pretty bold promise. You can have it all.
Well, let me give you an
Please.
example.
Yeah.
So, for example, for a law firm that we did some work for, we did something around inheritance disputes.
Okay.
And so we wrote a report based on people that had been through an inheritance dispute, going through, which family member was your dispute with, what were the assets in question, who did you go to for professional advice, that sort of thing, and I spoke to the department head. Once it got published, within 2 months we were, being cited in both AI and Google and Bing search on page one. And I said, so, how's it working for you? And he goes, yeah, we've had 7 new clients walk in saying they've read the report. So that for me was an aha moment. I was just like, oh wow, it's not just top of funnel. This works. It's a surprising benefit.
Yeah, and that's the thing in B2B, right? It's these not necessarily educational pieces, but there's also like thought leadership pieces. It's these reports, for example. It's blog articles. It's content that helps to demonstrate, like in your client's case, that capability, right? That competency. But not only that, but it's also their perspective on things that are relevant to their potential customers, right?
Oh, definitely. I think the AI search era of content marketing is that we're getting away from, the traditional SEO playbook of trying to make your clients the Wikipedia for whatever industry they're in, to actually just putting out content that your audience wants to read. They don't need to know what is disaster recovery. Chances are the people you're selling disaster recovery to already know what disaster recovery is. What they want to know is, like, if I buy this, what happens, and if you can give them that assurance and be full of insight, then, that's brand awareness right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, sir. Get up on your soapbox.
Okay, oh no. Here we go.
A status quo in your area of expertise that you passionately disagree with, and why?
I'm going to go with Bright Edge and Doctor and SEMrush.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they're putting out, their tools are built for the search era of the last 2 decades. almost the last 3 decades. And, it's all keyword driven. And AI has just turned all of that upside down. It's ripped up the rules to a great extent. And I see them bringing a lot of the 10 blue links thinking from traditional search into their new tools, and the way they're kind of trying to create new AI innovations within their tech stack, their SEO software stack for their users. But it just does not fit. It just does not work. It's not fit for purpose in the AI search era, and it almost demonstrates a lack of understanding for how AI works. And I'm not saying you have to build your own LLM from scratch like I have with some ex-Amazon engineers. But yeah, it just, the status quo has to change, and I'm sure they are changing. I want to say to their credit, if I actually knew, but I will say it when I see it. Absolutely. Because I want to be a champion for others.
Sure. Fair point. But I think you're also in an interesting space, if I may say so. That's in a constant state of evolution, right? Like it sometimes feels a bit transient, doesn't it? Like things that, there are some things, like you said, like there's still some principles from traditional SEO that still hold true, but there's this other part of the spectrum that has now completely changed.
Yeah, it's quite weird because in the last, even as I observe like over 2 decades, the principles have always been the same of, making content discoverable,
Yeah.
making it so fit for search engines, fit for users, and fit for the internet. Okay, because those are the three stakeholders whose experiences we need to maximize. But AI has, so I don't think that would change as much. It's the tactics that always change, and it always has changed. And with AI, it's really accelerated the need to increase the level of quality or relevance to the target buyer when it comes to the tactical execution.
Which is a good thing, right? Because
I think it's great.
You want the quality of your content to improve and not get worse. Right?
98% of the content and SEO industry are probably not very happy about it, but I'm personally very happy about it. And I think the internet is going to be better off as a result.
Yeah.
So that it's always customer first in the end.
Absolutely. Okay, sir. Here comes the bonus question. Get ready. So let's just say, Andreas, you woke up tomorrow morning and you said, you know what? Forget all about all this like data science and AI stuff. I'm done with it. Right? If you were going to give up data science, AI search engines, data science driven content, all that good stuff, what other passion would you be pursuing, and why?
I'd be a chef.
Oh.
Yeah, I really would. At the weekends.
Jamie Oliver or Gordon Ramsay?
I would go with Gordon Ramsay. Absolutely. Like I would probably, take an unpaid job at a Michelin star kitchen. Take all the abuse that they give me, just to soak everything up and learn and work my behind off. And that would be, if I wasn't, that's what I would do, even at my tender age.
Amazing. So you were going to say something about the weekend. Did you host
some
guests?
At the week. I have over 1,000 cookbooks, and I'm always, my family get a bit frustrated with me because they always want me to cook their favorites, and I always want to cook something new. So the compromise is to cook the favorite, but with a twist,
That's interesting. So what's your favorite dish to cook, I would say?
I gotta say that I do love. I think kabsa balam or lamb kabsa is one of my
Mm,
favorites. It's
mm,
a
mm,
Saudi dish. They serve
mhm.
it at weddings. I tend to love dishes that are very
Exotic.
exotic, extravagant, used in celebrations, weddings. It's usually a good sign if they're served at weddings because you know it's going to be really good. Or either, and the kabsa is a bit like a biryani, except the rice is a bit more like a risotto as opposed to. So it's but it's really delicious. So highly recommended.
Wow. Wow. So not only are you a data scientist, but you're a chef as well.
Indeed, well, amateur one anyway.
Fantastic, fantastic. Andreas, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise and experience with the listeners. So please, quick introduction to yourself and how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so I'm Andreas Voniatis, founder CEO of Artios. You can find me at artios.io or on LinkedIn. Feel free to grab me. Always happy to have a conversation.
Fantastic, fantastic. Once again, Andreas, thank you so much for your time. Take care, stay safe, and talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye for now.